What is the true essence of a song, and does its title hold a deeper meaning? She entered the world as a byproduct of a horrific Nazi social experiment and eventually endured the crushing loss of her child in a freak accident. Only 12 months later, she had to say a final goodbye to her husband. Yet, in the face of such paralyzing grief, she rose to become one of the most celebrated voices on the planet. This is the incredible, often hidden life of Anni-Frid Lyngstad, the woman the world knows as Frida from ABBA. There comes a point where we have to decide that the story must be told, even when it's painful. Behind the dazzling lights and global superstardom of ABBA lies a narrative of shocking truths, profound mourning, and a level of grit that is hard to wrap your head around. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the woman whose vocal range defined a generation and whose inner strength serves as a beacon for millions. But long before she was the shimmering icon on stage, her life began in the dark aftermath of war, burdened by a secret that would eventually rewrite her entire identity. Anni-Frid Lyngstad was born on November 15, 1945, in the tiny village of Ballangen, nestled near Narvik in northern Norway. Her mother, Sinni, was a local Norwegian girl, while her father, Alfred Haas, was a German sergeant who retreated to his homeland once the Nazi occupation ended. By 1947, Frida's family was living in fear of the local community's anger toward those who had ties to the Germans, forcing her mother and grandmother to flee Norway. They sought safety in Sweden, eventually settling in the Hedjedalen region. Tragic circumstances struck early when Frida was just 2 years old. Her mother passed away from kidney failure, leaving her to be raised solely by her grandmother, Agni. Growing up in Torshälla, a small area near Eskilstuna, Frida watched her grandmother work tirelessly as a seamstress to provide for them. Though her home was modest, she remained connected to her extended family, finding great joy in summer visits from her aunts and uncle. Her Aunt Olive was a pillar of support, ensuring Frida always felt wanted and loved. Despite this, Frida has admitted in recent years that she has a complicated relationship with her past. In a 2009 interview, she expressed a strong dislike for revisiting her early years, noting that while there were bright spots, dwelling on the past simply doesn't fit her current outlook on life. She mentioned that she prefers to look forward rather than looking back at a time she can no longer change. A return trip to Eskilstuna later in life proved to be an emotional experience for her. She hadn't stepped foot in the town since her grandmother's passing, which occurred right before the meteoric rise of ABBA. Driving through those streets, she didn't see the modern buildings. She saw the ghosts of her childhood. It was her grandmother who first planted the seeds of music in her soul, singing old Norwegian folk tunes that sparked a lifelong passion. By the time she was in grade school, her talent was undeniable, and her teachers would often have her perform for the class. Her reputation as a gifted vocalist quickly spread from the classroom to the local neighborhood. Even though her grandmother was her biggest cheerleader at home, she curiously never attended any of Frida's live shows. For most of her life, Frida lived under the impression that her father had perished at sea during the war, a narrative she accepted as fact until a shocking twist changed everything. At age 11, she took to the stage for a Red Cross benefit, and by 1958, she was earning money as a professional singer with the Avald Ek Orchestra. Her bandleader at the time marveled at how someone so young could possess such poise and skill, noting that her only real hurdle was learning to let her voice truly fly instead of holding back. Life moved quickly for the young singer. At 18, she married Ragnar Fredriksson, a fellow musician and salesman, and they eventually had 2 children, Hans and Ann Liselott. However, the pressures of life and career took their toll, leading to a separation in 1968 and a final divorce in 1970. A pivotal moment occurred on September 3, 1967, when Frida won a prestigious national talent search in Stockholm. The prize was a recording deal, and she was invited to perform on the nation's most popular TV program that very night. It was a historic day in Sweden as the country switched from driving on the left to the right side of the road, meaning most people stayed off the streets and glued to their televisions. Suddenly, the entire nation knew her name. Labels began fighting over her, and she soon released her first professional track, which solidified her status as a rising star. Her momentum didn't stop there. In 1969, she met Benny Andersson, sparking a romance that turned into a life partnership by 1971. That same year, she dropped a solo album that received rave reviews and scored her first #1 hit. In a prophetic turn of events, the 3 people who would soon join her in ABBA actually provided the background vocals for that very song. The foundation for the world's greatest pop group was being laid. The bond between Frida, Benny, Bjorn, and Agnetha grew into a professional powerhouse. In 1972, they officially merged their talents to form ABBA, using the first letter of each of their names. Their initial offerings were well received, but didn't quite set the world on fire until 1974. That was the year everything exploded. With the performance of Waterloo at the Eurovision Song Contest, they didn't just win a competition, they launched a global phenomenon. From that moment on, they were unstoppable. Massive hits like SOS, Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen, and Fernando dominated the airwaves, supported by innovative music videos and electric live shows. Their sound was a perfect blend of intricate harmonies and infectious hooks that ignored cultural barriers. By 1977, ABBA was a household name, and Frida's voice, paired with Agnetha's, had become the definitive sound of the 70s. However, while the music was soaring, Frida's personal life was about to be hit by a bombshell. In 1977, a German magazine published her life story, which caught the eye of a man named Peter Haas. After questioning his father, it was revealed that Alfred Haas had not died in the war. He was very much alive. Even more disturbing was the revelation that Frida was a Lebensborn child. This was a horrific Nazi initiative led by Heinrich Himmler, designed to create a master race by pairing German soldiers with women of Nordic descent. These children were essentially bred for their physical traits, and when the war ended, they and their mothers were treated with extreme cruelty by society, often being labeled as outcasts or rats. Frida's family had fled to Sweden to escape this persecution. Learning the truth about her father and the circumstances of her birth sent Frida into a deep depression. While she did eventually meet Alfred, the encounter was hollow. She was a grown woman, and while she didn't hold a grudge against him for the past, the emotional bridge between them had long since burned. The final years of ABBA were marked by internal friction. Frida and Benny didn't officially wed until 1978, but by 1981, their marriage was over. The relentless pressure of being the world's biggest band had fractured their relationships. In 1982, the group called it quits. Frida used this transition to reflect on her life and find a new path forward. She eventually moved to Switzerland, finding love again with Prince Heinrich Roos of Plauen. They married in 1992, making her a princess and a stepmother. She found immense joy in her new family, including the birth of her grandson, Jonathan. But the late 90s brought a series of devastating blows. In 1998, her daughter was killed in a car accident in New York at only 30 years old. Just a year later, her husband passed away from lymphoma. The weight of these losses led Frida to retreat from the public eye for a long time, seeking solace in privacy. It was only years later that she began to slowly return to social life, often seen at royal events with her partner Henry Smith. She never fully left music behind, releasing a soulful single in 2004 and eventually helping to launch the ABBA Museum to protect the group's history. The 2021 comeback with new songs proved that the world's love for their music had never faded. Sadly, tragedy struck once more in 2023 when her grandson Jonathan died of cancer at 34. Throughout all of this, Frida's legacy remains one of incredible perseverance. Beyond her mezzo-soprano vocals that anchored some of the most famous songs in history, she has spent her later years as a dedicated environmentalist, using her platform to fight for the planet. Her life is a testament to the fact that while we cannot control the tragedies that befall us, we can choose to keep moving forward. We love having you in our community, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated on all our deep dives into the icons of the past few decades. What did you think of Frida's resilience, and which member of the group should we cover in our next video? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you in the next one.